You guys can't see it, but my bedroom floor is an absolute disaster right now. Hi everyone, my name is Valerie B and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you my physical TBR list. I got this idea from a Haley fan video. Her TBR list is very long. She buys a lot of books just based off like reviews and how pretty they are. And if I did that, I would have no money. So my list is going to be substantially shorter than hers, but that's okay. I think it'll be fun anyways. So let's get to it. So my bookcase is the pride and joy of my room. Oh my gosh, let's keep this facing up because you don't need to see my floor. I'm going on a trip next week, so it's just littered with things. So here we are in my little reading nook. I'm sat on my good old comfy Papa San chair. This thing is the best thing ever. So worth investing in, and it's so cozy. You can just curl up into a little ball and read, or sleep, or read and then fall asleep, which I do a lot. The first book on my TBR list is the classic Pride and Prejudice. Like a few months ago, for some reason, this was everywhere again. Like it became really popular out of nowhere. And I'd never read the book, seen the movie. One night I went to a friend's house and watched it. And I was like, okay, I can see the appeal here. So I went ahead and got the book because this is like a Penguin classic book. It has the whole introduction, of which I don't really know if I'm supposed to read or not. So I read like 3-4 pages of the introduction and then I got confused as to whether I was supposed to read it or not. So I took a pause on that. The next book is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I've heard a lot of great things about this book, and I've also heard some just mediocre things about the book, but it's about Greek mythology and I'm all over that. And I'm so glad there has been kind of a surge in retelling of Greek mythology, because for the longest time, like, Percy Jackson was really the only thing that had to do with Greek mythology. I mean, even before that, it was like Disney's Hercules. So really happy that these are becoming more popular. Next is the 9 Lives of Chloe King. You might recognize Liz Braswell. She writes a lot of the Disney story retellings, but I remember watching the show on my ABC Family, now it's Freeform, and I loved the show. And it was canceled after 1 season, and I was pissed. Still am. That, don't get me started on that. So I got the book because of it, and it's actually a 3-book series. I read the first book, which is like the first third of it. And apparently I started the second one. My bookmark is at chapter 2, but I never finished it, which is ironic because the show was never finished either. So next on the TBR list is the Shannara Chronicles. I'm not gonna take the Shannara Chronicles out because I don't feel like moving it because they're big and heavy books. I have all 3 books. I actually got them from my dad. He loved the series when it came out in the 70s, 80s. And when I told him there's a show, he got really excited, and then we watched the first episode and he hated it. First book I think is about Will's dad, right? His name's Will, right? I think it's about how Will's dad got the stones in the first place, I think. But anyways, like half the book goes by and it's just them walking through a forest. That's it. And they like hide in the forest and then they're walking through the forest. And then they hide and then they're walking. Like I was like, I can't handle this. We're stopping. So that's where I am with that. It's more I just keep it for the aesthetic at this point. Will I get to it ever? I don't know. So next is the Maze Runner series. I actually have read the first one. It's the second and third that I haven't read. I read the first one after the movie came out, and I did it for a book report like freshman year of high school. And I meant to read these 2 because they made the other 2 movies. I just never got to it, and then I kind of lost interest. But from what I've heard, it's basically just the same plot repeated twice. I don't know if I'll ever get to it. The next book is The Great Typo Hunt by Jeff Deck and Benjamin D. Herson. I found this book actually at a used bookstore and it sounded kind of funny. If I read, this is a long synopsis. But basically this guy's just really good at finding typos everywhere, and it's written comedically. And I started it, didn't get super far. I think it's one of those books I like brought to the airport or like the doctor's office and started and just like never got back to it. Don't know why. The second one is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, classic. I don't know why, but I've always been interested in this book and what it's about. Well, could I tell you what it's about? No idea. I just always remember this name being brought up randomly, and it just the title itself sounded very intriguing. And it's Charles Dickens, and I would rather read this over the one with the whale, Moby Dick. So there you have it. Next one is Endless Summer by Jennifer Eccles. It's a contemporary love story about some teenagers, and I also got this from a used bookstore. Let me put my books back. Another book I have. This it's a tight space over here. This was a gift from my father, and it's Mary, Queen of Scotland and the Isles by Margaret George. I was telling him how I love the show Reign and was really fascinated on Mary, Queen of Scots, and so he got me this fat book. Look at it. Did you hear that? That's a hefty book right there. For this section, the books that I haven't read, the first one is Dune. I remember I put this on my Instagram story saying, oh man, here we go, we're gonna read it. I did. Do you see my bookmark? I did start it. I just didn't finish it. I got a decent, no, that's not true. That is not a decent way through. But I started it and it was pretty easy to follow. I heard a lot of people say it was pretty boring, but mostly just school got in the way, and I just didn't have the mental energy to try and focus on all the fantasy that was happening in this, or sci-fi, because there's just so much going on. I'd like to read it eventually. The plan was to read it, do a book review, and then watch the movie and do a movie review or a comparison of the two, and clearly I never got that far. And I also heard that the movie only covers half the book. Moving on. Next is the second book in the Crazy Rich Asian series. It's China Rich Girlfriend. Just haven't got to it really. The first book was hard to follow at first because the family tree is so big. I had to rewatch the movie to kind of be okay, so that's that person in the book, that's this person in the book. So yeah, hopefully I remember who everyone was. Next on the TBR list for this section is basically the whole Chronicles of Narnia series. I started this a whole long time ago, and the first book is the prequel book, which was written after the other books, and that made everything very confusing. So I just haven't gone back to it since, but I really one day want to at least read the first book. Chronicles of Narnia, one of my favorite movies. It's such a comfort film for me. I want to know what the original material is like. Next, we have this itty-bitty book. It's The Two Princesses of Bel-Air by Gail Carson Levine. If you recall, in your little elementary school library, she did a lot of fairy tale retellings. I remember it being a lot thicker than this. It's very small, but I haven't read this since probably 4th grade, so it is on my TBR list because I don't remember anything that happened. Next, we have Marie Lu's Rebel. It's supposed to follow Day's brother, years later, after Day and what's-her-face, I'm blanking on her name, saved the Republic. After that, we have Circe by Madeline Miller. Again, another Greek retelling. I've heard a lot of great things about this book, and I just haven't gotten to it. Next is Me Before You. I got this at a thrift store, so it was really cheap, and I also got it because I wanted to do a book versus movie comparison. However, I've just seen the movie for the first time. Now it's kind of spoiled the book. I mean, I knew how it would end, in sadness and death. Next is another Greek retelling. It's the Song of Achilles. Heard such amazing things about this, and I'm excited to cry for this one. Okay, I've read all of those. Cool. Now we come down a level. That was a really bad attempt at doing the elevator button. Oh goodness. So now we're down to the last level. I think I've actually read everything on the shelf. We have the second book for the Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan, and I loved the Percy Jackson series as well as the Heroes of Olympus series so much, and this was the continuation of it. I really wanted to read it, and I'm so close to being done. This is how much I have left. I'm so close, but it's just so hard to get through. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's written for children and I'm kind of past that, or the storyline is just not as intriguing. Also, Apollo is kind of an annoying character, but yeah, I don't know. Next we have M by Kim Thu, I think. I'm probably wrong. I should know how to say that. But it's a very small book. It's just a bunch of short stories on the emotional intricacies of trauma and exile for those who had some sort of connection to the Vietnam War. And I think the Vietnam War is really interesting. I'm also Vietnamese, and it was also on sale, which was a plus, but that's why I have this one. Okay, so the last two on the TBR list are these two. We got Bridge to Terabithia and Peter and the Starcatcher. Peter and the Starcatcher is a very famous retelling by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson of Peter Pan. There's many books in this series. My sister has read them, but she had a second copy and gave this to me. I haven't gotten to it yet. Next, Bridge to Terabithia. I haven't gotten to this yet because we all know how devastatingly sad it is at the end, so I refuse to cry for this. I have yet to reach such a low point that I want to read this for fun, so there's that. I'm looking at this section, I'm like, oh, I read all of them. Bruh. I haven't read Harry Potter. That's not true. I read the first book of Harry Potter. I haven't read 2 through 7 because I wanted to like read each book and then like watch the movie with it so I can compare all of them just for funsies, not for video or anything. I also just ordered 2 books. Those are gonna be added. One of the books I ordered is the third to the Joanna Hathaway Dark of the West series. It's called Southern Sun, Northern Star. It's basically a World War II era based fantasy book. It was recommended to me by a YouTuber that I watch. He helped edit the book, and this book I believe is only sold on Amazon. It's really interesting. It's really fun. There's a map in it, so that already proves that it's got a lot of potential. So the second book that I ordered, it's called Only in America, and it's by Dominic Holland. It was recommended by Tom Holland, and so Dominic is his dad, and that's the only reason I got it. So I don't know, we're gonna see how it goes. It's $10 off Amazon, and Tom Holland recommended it, so that's why I bought it. But that pretty much brings us to the end of my physical TBR list. Honestly, there's way more books that I want to read, and I have a list of them on my phone. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you found a book that interests you a bit, or there's a book that I have that you notice I really need to read because it's just so, you think it's so good. But yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe if you would like. I'd very much appreciate it. That's all I've got for you today, and I now have to go pack. I hate packing. I hate packing. I'm gonna go, guys. Bye.